Hello, sir. I welcome you to my podcast. I'm really thankful that you gave me time to come for this podcast.
Yeah, it's a nice thing that you invited me, and it's nice to share our experience at the same time. Nice to have a conversation with you as well and to spread knowledge in whatever way we can.
Thank you so
So
much,
thank
sir.
you for having me.
So, for the audience, please just quickly introduce yourself and tell who you are and what you do so that we can go ahead.
Yeah. So my name is Chinmaya Naik and I'm an engineer specifically from computer science background, having a minors in electronics and telecommunication with the AI as my specialization as well. So this is my background of my education as well as I have worked in few of the startups as well. So one of the startup is related to education for the specially abled individuals with the help of technology. So that came into mind when we were like in the like initial or early stage of our engineering. So we thought, why can't we use whatever knowledge we are getting in a form of education to help somebody? Then we started with one of the projects that was specifically related to the college, and then we converted into initiative. Now this project is related to health tech specifically. Now we being engineer, we don't understand health tech that much, so
Hmm.
that is the reason we have to research a lot and we have to dive in to the topic which we are not comfortable with. So that is something we did and we created the project out of it. Basically a prototype you can say, or maybe minimal viable product. We had a lot of communication with the users, customers. So that is something I have experienced in a form of a startup. And that's the experience with the team as well. At the same time, have been to various of IITs, IIMs, and big platforms like Microsoft hackathons, Infosys, at the same time KPMG, etc. So these are all the exposures that I have received during my engineering time itself. So this is about me.
Wonderful. So, as you said that while you were developing your product, while you were trying to change it from that thing into an initiative, you were interacting with your customers, right? Those who
Mhm.
are going to use it. But what
Yeah.
I have seen in most of the cases for a startup is that they first create a product, then they take it to the customers, they get
Right.
the feedback, and then they improve it. So was it
Right.
done
Right.
the same in your case, or you did something else in this case?
Right. So the thing is, so the area which we are working on is quite different and we haven't experienced it yet. So like consider if you want to pay online payment and online cash transaction. So you and me, we are all aware of it and we are quite, we have a basic knowledge of it as well. But the area and the domain that I am working in is not something that you get it around yourself or your neighborhood. So that is something you don't get it. So it needs something called as a problem validation. So once what is actually the problem, what is actually the scenario that is happening. So if you don't understand how they are living, how what is the currently available solution to them, or what are the challenges they are facing. So till that point you don't understand that particular thing, you won't be able to do that. So in my case, it is necessary to have a communication with the users or the customer and try to understand what is their challenges, what are the problems they are facing, and what is the life they are living. So that is the reason we have to communicate first and try to understand their situation, because we aren't it's alien to us because we don't find it near ourselves. That's the reason we have to empathize with them, understand them. So that is important when the customer or users is not what you have already felt or understood. So as I gave you example of transaction, so we are aware of it, and whenever solution comes to us, we will be able to identify it. So the solution giver is also aware that we are knowing that this particular fact is going on, but till the point the solution provider doesn't know what we need, so that will be a problem. So that is something, the empathizing and understanding customer is pretty much important, and we emphasize on that to start
But
with.
don't you feel that this thing should be done by every startup? Like before or while they are making their product, they should go to the customer and ask themselves and ask them.
Yes, this kind of feedback of having a questions and understanding the customer would help you and save the time, because you will create one prototype. You don't know what is their need. So you have created according to your need. So you present it to them. Now you find it that there is this particular problem, this particular problem. So there are few of the gaps. Whatever solution that you're presenting, that might be possibility that there are several gaps and there are several problems in the solution that we have presented. So it is pretty much very important to like first understand the customer and their needs specifically and build according to that, because it saves your time, at the same time saves your cost as well. So
Yeah.
that is what I have experienced.
Because as the product goes into a higher stage, making
Hmm.
any kind of change into that costs a lot. You know,
Right.
if it is in the production stage and if you want to change something, then it is actually
Right.
going to cost a significant amount of money. So
Right.
that's
R&D
fine.
cost.
Yeah, initially.
Yeah.
So how I came to know about you? You got nominated for your work at the Falling Walls Labs India, and
Right.
you went on to win that competition. And I congratulate for you that.
Thank you.
So tell us about your work. That what was your work that you submitted there, and how it went, and what all it was.
Right, right, right. So it was more about what they were asking. I'll start with that. So what is the problem and solution, and what is the impact and value that you are creating? That's it. They needed this much, but this particular thing, and you have
Hmm.
only 2 slides to explain what you are going to provide to your users. So that is what the challenge was, and there has to be some solution that is something unique and that is something innovative, and that solves some of the major problems. So
Hmm.
what my solution was according to the education for the specially able individuals. So we created a technology. Had a lot of research and communication with users. So that is something had helped us in creating the pitch that is specifically required. So we started with, these are the facts, that this number of specially able individuals are there, and what actually the problem they are facing, and few of the testimonials from the users as well we have added into our pitch. What is the problem they're facing? So that is the real life scenario that we have jotted down and added onto our particular solution, sorry, problem side. And then what is the solution that we are presenting, and how it is creating a value, and who are the stakeholder who are getting like benefits out of the solution that we are presenting, and how cost effective, and what is the maintenance of that particular thing, and how we are different from the competitor as well. So this is how we explained in the 2 slides itself. So it's a 3-minute pitch that we have to give, and you have to be very precise of what you want to tell. So it's a crisp and to the point, like the platform that was given to us. So it's a 3 minutes and on 2 slides. So we have to be very crisp about that. So I followed the same approach, and I have given them the real life examples at the same time to show more emphasis on the same. And eventually we went on to win that particular event, because eventually I saw that judges were like quite very interested, and it was impactful pitch that has been created. So it was um, amount of efforts given, and at the same time intent shown towards our solution. So that is also one of the important aspect when we are pitching.
So
So this
what
is
was your
about the.
work actually? Like what problem you saw and what solution you presented?
Right, right, right. Yeah. So talking about my solution, it was a education platform in a form of a hardware system. So basically, we are solving the problem of a lack of education for the specially abled. So it's as less as 5% to 10% only. Literacy rate is very abysmal for the specially able individuals. So that is the problem, because it has to be manually converted, and then they have to provide it to the specially abled individuals, and it has expensive process as well, like associated with that. Then at the same time, what we have created is, we have created like normal printing and all. So we have created a digital platform for them, where they can understand and get their education only by touching and understanding. So their disability don't hamper their education specifically. And at the same time, it provides them opportunity into the MNC sector, like big MNCs like Accenture and other MNCs have the quota for the disabled individuals where they can work and show their talent. At the same time, they're not able to research as well in this particular domain. So we are providing them with a platform in a form of a touch-based mechanism, which is based on vibration technology. So it helps them in understanding any text or a diagram at a real time, bearing their disability. So that is what we bring in.
So
Because
your
it
work
is
is.
said when,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it is said that whenever you have a disability or one of the senses missing, your one of the touching and
Other
everything senses
senses
becomes
get.
more powerful. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that is the point that we are using into our solution.
So your work is mostly focused on blind people and how
Yes.
you are going to make their life more and more easy. So
Yes.
we know for blind we already have too many solutions in the market.
Hmm.
Like we have a smart stick, that we
Hmm.
have something that reads the document and speaks it in that.
Right, right,
So
right,
is
right.
there something hacking in those things that you saw which made you make your own or build something else? So how did you come to this point?
Right, right. So talking about the stick that you have mentioned, so stick is specifically for navigation from one place to another,
Hmm.
but our major focus is on the education side. So the second thing that you mentioned that the audio-based device or text-to-speech or sorry, speech-to-text device, whatever device is available to them. So yes, we actually thought that this particular solution would be more helpful to them. So like normal individual, it would come into your mind. So as you mentioned, why we need to understand the customer beforehand, because we also did the same mistake that we have assumed that this text to speech solution would be helpful for them. So that is what we have assumed, but when we actually went there and tried to understand the customer, we have found out that this particular solution, they do have this solution, but they are
Hmm.
not using it extensively because of the reason it is not helping them in the core education. Now what core education includes is the quantitative, qualitative, logical, analytical part, and subjects like mathematics and science, which cannot be done only by hearing. So like imagine you are doing mathematics only by hearing. So how weird it sounds. So that is the
Hmm.
reason that we have identified. Yes, obviously it will help you in understanding any of the articles, any of the English content, and it's at the same time any social sciences related aspect or any of the newses. But the core of education, it cannot help them in that. So that's the reason it is not used in the core of education, but at the same time they're using the printer based material. So where they're printing a special
Hmm.
character and a pattern in a form of a braille, and they're trying to feel and understand, but it has to be done manually, and it is an expensive process that is being carried out, and it needs more maintenance. So this is the problem that we have identified, and whatever existing solution was there, we have identified the gap with that particular solution, and we tried to bring in all in one platform, so in a form of a digital education platform.
I tell you, when I was thinking about all of this stuff, because my initial PhD topic was something related to this. So at that time, what I used to do, I used to visit those blind institutes, and
Right, right.
those who are there, I just used to ask them that, okay, you have this thing, tell me what you
Hmm.
feel about it and what all things can be done. So one
Right,
of
right.
the things that they told me is that the solutions are available, that's good, but the
Hmm.
costing is a big issue for them, because
Right.
the blinds mostly strive on the like what they get from outside, even
Right.
if they are doing a job somewhere, right, at
Hmm.
at some office.
Supports or donations.
These are supported by the donations. So they
Yes.
cannot go to those expensive things that are available to them. So
Right.
my question is, in your product that you are trying
Right.
to give it to them, how will
Hmm.
you tackle the costing issue in that
Right.
case
Right.
so that it's
Right.
accessible for everybody?
Right, right. Yeah, for the same reason, because of this financial differences. So we identified that few of the users or few of the affected individuals, the reason for their problem is one of the financial constraint is as well, because they do not have the finances to improve their eyesights or the problem that they're facing. So they eventually become the disabled ones eventually. So this is what we have identified. For the same reason, we are not targeting an individual or the users. We are targeting basically institutes or NGOs or CSR activities specifically in this domain who are supporting visually impaired, and they are our customer, and the users is obviously specially able individual. So that is the reason we are targeting them who will be paying for our solutions. And at the same time, we bought the solution that we are trying to bring in is three times more cost efficient in comparison to the technologies they are currently using. At the same time, our maintenance cost is 25 times less in comparison to whatever technology is available. So this is something that we have improved and we have brought it into the digital platform.
So targeting the NGOs who will eventually go ahead and help those people.
Right, right,
So this seems to be a smart move. But how can you say that this will work? Because the NGOs can, NGOs also can say that we don't have enough funds to go ahead and do all of this stuff. Or they can buy those
right.
sports from you and don't go out and actually help them. So how that thing can be make it tackled?
Right. Yeah, so that is the possibility that we have identified. But what is the current technologies that they're using? One is a printer, obviously. One is so they are printing it and they are giving it to the solution or the visually impaired individuals. But the thing is, the cost incurred into that particular system is very much high. But and at the same time, the content is very limited.
Mm-hmm.
The only content like in accordance to their curriculum that is only available, but apart from that nothing is available. But what we bring in is the reduced cost, at the same time unlimited content available online and offline, which will help them access any content. So the education level, at the same time the cost of providing them with education reduces, at the same time content provision increases. So this is how we pitch to this NGOs. Obviously setting up a one time initial cost would be comparatively higher, but once it is set up, it will be available to them for the longer times and it will provide them with more of a benefits in the long term reach. So that is how we explain it, the long term goals.
So I just missed a point. I just quickly want to come back to it. So as you said that at the hurling wall slabs, they
Hmm.
have this two slide format that you have to
Hmm.
explain it in 3 minutes, which is
Yes.
actually very good. Because in that
Right.
process we just keep only the important stuff and keep
Right.
out the rest of the things.
Right.
I tell you, when I talk to my fellow PhD mates, and I always
Hmm.
tell them, "Ki first talk about the work that you have done, the work that you are
Right.
proposing. Then talk about
Hmm.
your introduction, the references, and all that stuff."
Right.
So what I felt after I heard from you, after I heard from you, that this two-slide format, 3 minutes to it, should be done everywhere.
Right.
Because
Hmm.
more than 3 minutes, even if I'm listening to what you are saying, I will not be
Hmm.
able to concentrate because our
Right.
human attention is quite less. So, do you
Hmm.
also think the same that this should be actually implemented always instead of going for the long
Right.
15 minutes, 20 minutes, and all that stuff?
Right. Yeah, so what it does is in like 10 to 15 minutes, it at some point it disconnects it with the topic. So what happens is in 3 minutes or 5 minutes, the time that has been allotted, so it gives you a very precise thing. Like you know that I have to. This is something very important for me. This is something important features of my solution that I'm building up. So I have to mention that particular thing, the problem that I have to mention. So these are the few of the important points that we mentioned. But whenever we have more time, we try to use lots of jargons at the same time, the topics which is not very much important. So the listeners or the audience get disconnected very easily. So that happens at times. So
Mhm.
yes, the 3 minutes or 5 minutes pitch is very helpful whenever you are pitching a new idea. And once you are like thorough with the idea, you know the background of the idea, then obviously 10 to 15 minutes would be a better idea because it will give you a larger or the broader aspect of the solution because you already know the solution. So that's the aspect of that. So That's what I think about it.
So what you're trying to say that in the initial phase, when we are trying to explain our stuff, then this
Right.
3 to 5 minutes stuff can work well. But when
Yes,
we have to
new.
go in depth, but when we
Mhm.
have to explain that stuff in depth, or when we already know a little bit about it, then that 15 to 20 minutes would work fine in that case.
Right. Yes.
That's one more actually very nice point. So coming a little bit about the stuff that you have done. You were this IB Hub startup school in 2017. So initially you went there as a participant, and then you were a mentor there.
Mhm.
You were guiding other entrepreneurs. So tell us about that journey, how it has been, and how you went there, what you saw.
Okay, sure. So what happened is how we came to know about IBF. So there was one stall we were part of fest in IIT Kharagpur. So where there we saw one of we used to see a lot of stalls and workshops that has been happening and demonstration that was given. So there's a lot of communication that we did, and obviously it was the initial years of our education. So we were quite curious and trying to understand more of the things and trying to like say basically understand the silly things as well. So we used to talk to them a lot, and there we found one of the workshop on the stalls that was available, that was of IBFs. So they were giving out promotions for to support the startup in a form of guidance and acceleration program. So we got connected with them, and for the next batch, so it was the next batch was basically the first batch that was going on. So we applied for that, and eventually we did a lot of research. So it was something different that we were working on at that time. It was a project related to scrap and how we can like monetize from the waste. So that is something that we have been working on. We did a lot of research, did a lot of communication, did a lot of research onto that, and prepared all the documents and the facts that is required. So after that, we gave an interview. We got selected for them, and the questionnaires, obviously, there was a lot of questionnaires as well. Eventually got selected. So it's a 4 week program that is happening in Hyderabad and the Lucknow region. So we were in the Lucknow region, and we spent 4 weeks there learning a lot of aspects around entrepreneurship as well as business aspect, and trying to understand the customer as well. So this is something that we have learned out there, and we have so it was not only a theoretical approach, it was a practical approach. We actually learned it and then actually went into the market to trying to understand it, trying to validate our approaches, and as at the same time we build a prototype as well there. So that is something that we did in the 4 weeks, and it was all in all output that we get out like when we actually graduated from that startup school. So we got a lot of insights and approaches. Moving forward, whatever approaches we have learned, we have like used it in the events, or maybe in a form of pitches that we needed to give important pitches. So we used that approaches, and it was really helpful for us. Then in the next year we got an opportunity to be there as an alumni mentor. So whatever experience like we learned from there, we have used into the real world and the scenario. We have experienced a lot of things, and obviously uh, not 100% of things that worked for us. There are a few ups and downs as well. So that's the experience that we have gained, and we shared it in that particular thing. And at the same time, you get to brainstorm a lot, you get to network, and you get to talk and understand new topics as well. So that is the reason we got a part of that alumni mentor. We had a lot of communication and learned a lot of things as well. Being a mentor as well, we shared our insights, but we learned from them as well. So it was exchange of knowledge that was happening in 2018 and 2019. We were there as a mentor.
So I see that you got one of your internships through this website called as Internship. And this website pops out every time when somebody goes out to search for an internship. So my question is, does this website actually works, and how does it helps a person to find out an internship and get into it?
Right, right. Yeah, so basically, yes, I would say because I was part of the Internshala student program. and was ambassador in the college as well, where I promoted this particular initiative. Then on the consecutive subsequent next term or the year, I was mentor there as well. So yes, why would I say this? Why this internship works? Because they have one of the clause that if you are an company or any of the small company or the startups, that you have to pays or basically provide the benefits to the students who are being part of your internships. But at the same time, it will be unpaid for you once it's a NGO or in a social related internship. So that is the platform they are providing. So you have to apply with all the basically questions that is given why you should be selected for this internships, and few of the questions associated with whatever domain you are choosing. Like if you are choosing for design related thing, they will ask you about design related questions, and if you are a software engineer, what programming language are you comfortable with. So that's all question they ask. At the same time, they tell you to build a resume which is supported by Internshala as well. So you need to create that, and that will be shared with the your profile will be shared with the one who is providing you with an internships. So that is the reason you get acknowledged that your solution has been submitted, or basically questionnaire has been submitted, and if get selected, you get the call from them as well. But if they want to check with you and understand you as an intern, if before you get selected, so you get an opportunity to have a communication with them and a conversation with them, which would help a employer or basically the internship provider to understand you better. So this kind of things is constantly happening in the internshala domain, and there is no as such fraud or related thing that you do their work and you do not get any dividend out of it, because that is something that you can note down or basically complain to the internshala platform as well. So it gives you a security as well at the same time once you get selected. So you have variety of option. Obviously there are big MNCs, big companies that is available. At the same time, a small companies in a form of startup as well, they are also available. If you don't get selected for the bigger ones, you do have the options of the smaller ones, which have a more probability of you getting selected for, because you don't have that much of experience. At the same time, small one doesn't ask for that much of experience
Hmm.
or the projects as well. So this is the reason about that.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, apart from this, you have also been a content developer at Healers at Home. So,
Mhm.
what was your work there?
Yes. Yeah. So uh, initially, I didn't have much of a knowledge of programming language and the projects related to the same or the computer science background itself. So content related is something that I found that my knowledge would be enhanced with that. So I applied in the internshala, got selected with them. At the same time, from whatever amount that was given to me from that particular internship, I was able to use on the basic needs that is required for me. So I was able to use that. So my work there was related to whatever health domain or whatever topic they want to publish a blog on,
Hmm.
because they were doing promotions based on content based promotions they were doing. So I
Okay.
needed to prepare the content on the same so that people are aware of. So like there are few of the platforms in a form of a travel or something, so they write a travel blog in that. So it was similar to that I was writing a blog related to health issues, or whatever possible solutions or maybe symptoms that
Hmm.
you might find. So I need to research about that and have to effectively jot down all the points and get it onto the website so that the content promotion can be carried out. So it was a 6 month internship, and it was a good period for me because I was able to understand new terminologies and new of the aspects about that, and how to represent my work. It was something that I have learned from that internship.
So let's suppose I want to be a content. So, how do I start?
Yes. So one of the most important thing is the research. how do you research about that particular topic? Yes, obviously you would be better knowing about research and everything because being from the PhD background, so you would be knowing about that, how to collect your artifacts, at the same time how to collect your data, how to represent it, and how to make it in a visual. Obviously you have a data, but audience like it more in the visualization form. How do you present in the visualization form, and how do you prepare a content out of it which is easy to understand, and any layman can also understand that particular concept that you're trying to explain. So you need to keep yourself in the user's shoes, and you need to read that out, because like if you are like making it in a content heavy, or maybe some of the very expressive words that you're using, so it would be quite difficult for the users or the reader or the audience to understand that particular point. So you need to be in the shoes of the reader itself once you have created one of the paragraph or one of the pages. So you need to read it by yourself. It shouldn't be that heavy for the audience or the users, and at the same time it should be supported by visualization data and some of the mm, uh, things in a form of an image that would be helpful for them in a form of flowchart or something. So that is what I have identified.
That's great. That's great. So, at Brookfish Ecosystem Foundation, you have also worked over there. So, what was your role at that foundation?
Sure, sure. So basically, Vruksh Foundation is basically they were partnered with PM, like PM Yojana, education Yojana under the PM. So they were trying to provide education for the rural sector, the rural who underprivileged children. So I was there as a part of business mentor.
Mhm.
So already I did have a experience of sharing my knowledge in a form of entrepreneurship or the business or in the startup area specifically. So I joined this program and had a lot of communication with few of the rural schools that I was provided. Like there were particular sections and classes and the schools that were provided to me. So I had a regular communication with them. So they were a diploma student or maybe engineering students. So I taught them about the business aspect and the skills that is necessary specifically in the entrepreneurship domain or in the business or maybe in the job sector as well. So I taught them about same, and whatever is required in the industry I basically communicated and tried to make them explain in the local language. So it was one of the most important, because talking them in an English language would be quite a
Mhm.
disaster because they won't be able to understand that part. So in explaining them in the local language with your experience, so that they would be able to understand, at the same time monitoring how is their progress going on over the month. So that is something my part was in this, in being a business mentor at Brooks ecosystem. Then eventually they started with the initiative where it was a program or a platform to give startup a recognition, or maybe a platform where they can express their idea, and it will give a global exposure to the global exposure to the startup itself. So I was part of that in the form of gaining the partnership and like gaining out network for them, so that they could share their knowledge and be a part as a jury, as well as be a partner for basically sponsors for that particular event. So that all work I have done being a part of Brooks ecosystem.
So, according to you, I'm just trying to come to a point. So, according to you, what is the definition of a startup?
Yeah, startup. So basically, startup is something that you build from the scratch, taking a lot of risk, because business is something. Now, business and startup are not the same thing, because business is something where you take comparatively lesser risk in comparison to startup. At the same
Mhm.
time, business might be something where you are not starting from the scratch, and startup is something where You have to build it from the scratch, starting with A, B, C, D, everything. So that is something related to startup that you have to build from the scratch, taking more of the risk. At the same time, you need to build your team from the scratch as well, which is very, very important. Because in business, you might have some of the team already existing that you hire and whatever you take in that. But this is something that you have to build everything from scratch, from the product, from the team, to the strategies, to the taking it into the market, whatever go to market strategies that you're having. And you need to identify the revenue as well. So consider if you are a startup like Swiggy and Zomato. Initially we weren't aware that we can order food staying at our home. So they built that particular environment where we felt the need that we need to order, we can sit at home and we can order any of the food. And like Uber and Ola, so we don't find auto easily nearby our home, we can order it on the tap of our phone. So that is something the need generation the startup does, and they identified that particular problem and do it from the scratch, making public know that you need this particular solution. And there may be, it might be any gap or the opportunities that they are solving, or it might be any problem that we are solving. So it is divided into that aspect.
So as you were saying that at Vukash Foundation, your role was to go in the rural areas and those children who were doing their diploma degree and tell them about business and all these things.
Right.
So what do you feel that what how important is it to tell them about these things at such early stage?
Right. Yeah, so basically why at early stage? Because now they get a platform where they can, if they have an idea, so they can experiment it with that. And they do have a lab and the teacher support. But once you are graduated, you have more of a responsibility, more of a push from the family to support or maybe do a job related thing. So you are very much occupied at that particular time. But once you are a student, you have a lot of time, at the same time lot of resources available, at the same time lot of platforms available, because government and other institutes are ready to help students who are willing to do their research, or maybe willing to do or make some innovations and bring it into the life. So it is very supportive environment specifically for the students. And once with a like lower background or financially backward background, so it will be more helpful for them, and it will provide a lots of resources as well. Because if you're working on some of the products, you get a access to the labs or any of the necessary items that is required for us. So it is supported by the college or any of the authorities or any of the incubations as well. So that is the reason that this particular time or whatever idea they have, they can use it at this particular moment. Or if even they fail in this particular moment, they gain the skills and the experience that is needed going forward, that will help them in the job as well. So that is the reason this particular time is very, very important, being a student and being a learner.
Great, that's great. So, so my last question, the thing that I want to ask you is that you have been at various events, you have participated at various events, and even won many of them. So,
Mhm.
what has been your learning there that you would like to share with us?
Right. So obviously, whenever you go in any of the event, you learn from that. Obviously, not everywhere you will win, because there might be a possibility that some of the judges might have a different perspective of the solution that you're trying to present, or whatever presentation you are trying to give, or whatever demonstration you are giving of your product. So there might be a changes. So you understand different perspective, and you try to look at in like whenever you build any of the solution, you get biased to it, because I have created this product and it will be helpful for
Hmm.
everyone. That is the thought that we get. But seeing it with others perspective is very, very important, and we see the loopholes or what are the gaps involved in whatever we have built into the solution as well. It might be in any of the hackathons as well, it might be any of the business plan event, or maybe in any of the case study events as well. So there are various of events that I have been part part of. So I learned a lot about understanding others' perspective. At the same time, most important thing that I have learned is to listen to others is very very important, and to observe what others are doing is very very important, and try to grab whatever good or whatever better they are doing in comparison to you as well. So maybe it might be your competitor as well. So
So, but what happens, as you said, that when, like suppose I have created a product, right? So I am attached to that, right? So I am feeling
mhm,
that okay, like this is the best thing that can happen, and this is the perfect solution. But when we go at such events, we have a look at what others are doing and what they have presented and all this. This kinds of brings a bias in the mind,
mhm,
and this
right.
prevents us from actually being an open-minded and listening to
Hmm,
others and observing what they have done. So
mhm,
I'm sure this would have been happened with you also.
right.
So
Yes.
how you tackled those things, how you tackled those emotions?
Right. So one of the emotions, yes, obviously, whenever you win, your maybe basically a bit of ego comes into it, and you feel that whatever you have created is very premium. But whenever you lose and you face a failure, that is the time that you learn, and you try to accept that. So I have learned a lot from the failures as well, and wherever I have lost or not able to win or not be in the podium of that. So at that particular moment, I was able to learn, like, I yes, obviously I am down after losing some of the event, but I give a lot of time thinking of where it went wrong for me. And most important thing, after every event, even if I win or even if I lose, I take a lot of feedbacks from the judges or maybe other competitors as well. So what they are seeing the problem with me or whatever I'm trying to present or demonstrate. So whatever problem they have identified, they will be able to help me, because third person is on whoever hasn't seen your product or maybe hasn't seen your solution or have seen you for the first time will be able to understand the better. So I take a lot of feedbacks out of it. So whatever they tell me, I try to copy it down, and whatever I can improve, I do it by practicing it a lot. So feedback is one of the most important part.
So what you're trying to tell that if you or not reach to that point, right? So
Mhm,
what you do, you go ahead to the judges and to all
mhm.
those who are around you and try to get a feedback from them, right?
Right, right, yes.
So getting a feedback from a judge is, I guess, I think it is comparatively easy as to get a feedback from somebody who is with who was at your par at some competition. So
Right,
is it the same as I'm saying, or is it something else in the field
yes.
at those
Yes,
places?
so no, I don't think whenever we are being a part of undergraduates or postgraduate program, like after obviously 12th, once we are done with all the 12th, so it's a mature stage that we get, and being a part of this digital community we are in, so it provides a lot of platform where we can communicate with obviously the podium holders. Like, consider I am not a winner, but I go to the first rank holder or the second rank holder. So I go to them and I try to talk with them. Obviously they won't tell the crux of your idea, but they will obviously help you understand what wherever you went wrong. So that is something they will certainly help you with, because they won't tell you like we did that, we that like they won't tell you their mm like the magic mantra. They won't tell
No,
you that,
their
but they
own
will obviously.
USP. They will
Yes,
not tell
yes,
their own USP. But I
but they will
want to
certainly help you.
but I want to
Yeah.
come to one specific point in all of these things.
Hmm.
Now, majority of the events are happening online. Unlike,
Yes.
first we had it offline, we get to meet everybody, talk to everybody. So getting a feedback in an online event, I think it
Hmm.
is comparatively difficult as compared to getting a feedback from any offline event. Like just an example of this. approaching to everybody who was part of this Falling Walls Labs, who had
Hmm.
submitted. It took me quite a bit time. I had to text
Right.
everybody, mail everybody, and all that stuff. But if all of you would have been available at one single place, it
Hmm.
would have been easier for me to get to all of you. So
Right.
my
Right. Right.
question is that getting a feedback
Hmm.
in such situation where everybody is not physically present with you, and once the event is gone, it has been finished, it becomes difficult to even get in touch with them. So
Right.
how you cope up with those things?
Right. So one of the important thing, yes, obviously, as you mentioned, this happens. The communication and the networking ability decreases a lot in this online platform. That happens. That is true that I've seen. But the thing is, you can get a feedback from, obviously, you can get a feedback from judges because they share a lot of suggestions, tips, as well as feedback, whatever they have seen in you specifically, and they spare a time on that as well. So this is first part. Obviously, that is not enough. You do have a platform where, specifically talking about Falling Wall Labs, we had a session with a few of the mentors where all the individuals were present, and we eventually discussed in that particular given platform. We learned from that platform as well, and we communicated in that platform. So that is something that where we exchanged a lot of communication. So that happened. Second is there is obviously WhatsApp groups or maybe Discord groups or any of the online platform communication platform is given. So if you want, you can obviously take feedbacks from, if needed, you can take
Hmm.
feedbacks from others. Or maybe one of the powerful thing is observing how others are doing and learning from that. So observation is the secondary thing that you can do.
But I
So
guess
that is what I have mentioned.
observation plays a big role in this case. Because
Right,
when we see others work, we put our own analysis that how this thing can be and
right,
how these things can work and all that stuff.
right. Hmm.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So this brings us to the end of this podcast, and I'm really thankful that you gave me time to come for this podcast and answer my questions that I had just thrown on you. So once again, I congratulate you for winning the Falling Walls Labs, and really thanks for being on my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chandan, and it was nice having a conversation with you. And obviously, I got one more network being a part of this online platform. So that is important for me. So I have you in my network as well now. So it is important, and I will be learning from you going forward as well, being a part of network, and we can share each other's knowledge and we can spread knowledge as well. So that is something I think very, very important, and that you are doing with your YouTube channel. So kudos to you.